What's good, YouTube? Fairdale Kings coming back at you again with some EA Sports College Football 25 news. This video, I will focus on Online Dynasty. Now, for many of you, you're going to be playing in some Online Dynasties. This one will focus on 32 users. We're going to have some parameters, though. We're going to set this one up 4 conferences with 8 users per conference. We're going to try to maintain conference integrity. Now, once you get to the quota of 8 teams in a conference, that conference is closed. No one else can select a team from that conference. So it's not like, you could take Texas A&M and put them in the ACC. No, we're going to try to keep the conferences as balanced and with that integrity involved. We don't want to have lopsided conferences for sure. So the conference will be the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC. Now, I'm also going to try to be as objective as possible. I've taken the top 25 preseason polls and post-spring top 25s from 24/7 Sports, ESPN, CBS Sports, and Fox Sports. ESPN and Fox Sports had a top 25 plus also receiving votes. Now, I did establish a baseline. If you received a first place vote, you got 35 points. A second place vote got you 34 points. All the way down to a 35th place ranking, which would get you 1 point. Tallied up all the points. I've got the rankings now, and I'm going to sit here and break this down and tell you what teams I would select if I was you in your role as you pick teams for your dynasty. First 2 are going to go hand in hand. They tied in the polls. Ohio State and Georgia both received 2 first place votes, 2 second place votes. I would give the edge to Ohio State simply because they've got the path of least resistance. The SEC from week to week will be a meat grinder. 8 teams are going to come off the board, no doubt. I could probably put 12 teams in the top 32 if we allowed it. So if I was going to take one, though, I'm taking Ohio State. Ohio has a great recruiting base for sure. They've got great tradition. Georgia does as well. They've been knocking out the park with recruiting. State of Florida's there. You're going to recruit heavy in Georgia, Alabama, that whole southeast region. So both those teams, if you want to go either way, I can't fault you, but I'm going to give the nod to Ohio State. The next group will be, I'm going to add Texas, and then we're also going to add Oregon. Now, Texas just joined the SEC. Texas has a great recruiting base. They received 3 third-place votes. Oregon just joined the Big 10 conference, so they're going to have that West Coast as far as recruiting. They'll probably do great in the state of California recruiting. But I give the nod to Texas just because of the recruiting base. The next group of teams, we're going to put 3 on the board here. You're looking at Ole Miss, Alabama, and Missouri as far as the rankings are concerned. Now, that's 3 more SEC teams, so 5 of the top 7 are from the SEC. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's been doing a great job. They're throwing around money. They're highly rated this year. They'll be a top 5, top 10 program in all the preseason polls for sure. Alabama's got a great history, but Nick Saban's no longer there. They'll recruit great in Alabama and Louisiana and Florida. So, they've got proud tradition. I wouldn't fault you if you took Alabama over Ole Miss, but right now, according to the preseason polls, Ole Miss has the nod. Missouri, they've turned the corner. They've been doing great here recently, so I've got them as the number 7 program. To close out the top 8 in this first tier, so to say, is going to be Notre Dame. We're going to put them in the ACC conference. They've got affiliation with every other sport in the ACC except for football. They played a couple years ago during COVID, participated in the ACC, so it's not too big of a reach to add them for sure. But with their tradition, with their recruiting sources, hey, give me Notre Dame in the top 8 for sure. And now affiliated with the ACC, and I've got a buddy who's a huge Notre Dame fan. He'll take them top 10. Hey, they've got a lot of advantages for them. This next group of teams, you've got Michigan and you've got Penn State, either or. Michigan just won a national championship last year. They lost a lot of talent. They just lost their coach. It's going to be kind of weird to see what they do if they fall off at all. But that's my next 2, both from the Big 10. This next one might shock a little shock some people, but they're ranked right now 18, 9th, 11, and 6 in the preseason polls. They've left the Pac-12 where they've been doing great recently. Now they're going to go into a wide open Big 12 and maybe have a chance to dominate. Only thing I'm hesitant about is the recruiting base. Are they going to be able to recruit good in California? I hope so, to justify them being in this spot. But they're definitely one of the top 12 programs. The next one is LSU. We'll throw LSU up there, and then we're also going to throw in 2 ACC teams in Florida State and Clemson. LSU's got a great recruiting base. Brian Kelly's been knocking out the park. Texas is right there to the west of them. So they've got great facilities. They're in the SEC, great recruiting base. So they get the nod. Now, the next 2, you can flip, toss a coin. Florida State, Clemson. Florida State went undefeated last year regular season, got smacked in the bowl game, but everyone opted out, so they didn't have a lot of guys in the game. Clemson has taken a little bit of a drop here recently. Dabo hasn't embraced the NIL era, but like he said the other day, hey, I'd rather take my 4- and 5-star players as opposed to taking someone's garbage from the transfer portal and paying those guys. I'll take my 4- and 5-stars and develop them, and we'll go that route. Okay, Dabo, we'll see. The next 2 teams are going to be 2 more SEC teams. You're going to take Tennessee and Oklahoma. Both of them have great recruiting bases. Oklahoma has Texas to the south of them. They've got great tradition. Both those teams, I can't fault you going one way or another. Trying to speed through this, we'll get Miami. We're going to add Kansas State to the fold. We're going to add NC State. And then the next candidate, in fact, we'll add 2 of them. We're going to add Oklahoma State, if I can find them here on this. I know I got a wonky, there it is, Cowboys helmet that we added. And then Arizona. So Miami gets the nod over all 5 of these teams. They've got the state of Florida for recruiting base. I already alluded to that with Florida State. Almost all their players come from the state of Florida. Kansas State was tied with them. I gave the edge to Miami. Kansas State, with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, they might be the next one to step in that role and run the conference. They got to compete with Utah. NC State for the ACC. Oklahoma State, they're going to be in that wide open discussion in the Big 12. And then Arizona joins the Big 12. So, maybe Arizona will be able to recruit in the state of California as well. They're right there, on the border. So they might get that boost being one of them teams that can recruit out west. So it'll be interesting. That's my next 5 there. To close out this one, now Texas A&M should be the next team off the board, but we've already closed the SEC, so Texas A&M is going to go on that line as a potential next in line, also receiving votes, whatever. We're going to add USC, who left the now, almost default Pac-12. They've joined the Big Ten. We're going to add Kansas, who's done really well recently, and we're going to add Virginia Tech from the ACC. That's the next 3. SC over those other 2 because they have a great recruiting base in California. So they get the nod there. They've got great tradition and history. So we've added SC. Now we move on to the next level. I could see us adding another team with some proud tradition in West Virginia. Then we're going to add Iowa, also from the Big Ten. Next in line will be UW. We're going to add Washington, who played in the national championship game last year, lost their coach to Alabama. But, they're also in the Big Ten Conference. They've got some tradition. We'll see how it shakes out here moving forward. But, you could be on that left coast and maybe do well. And then Louisville. Louisville's got a proud history. They won a Heisman in the last 10 years with Lamar Jackson. They've won the Fiesta Bowl. They've won the Orange Bowl. They've got a new coach in Jeff Brom, who did really well last year. Before they lost their last 3 games of the season, they were 10-1 at one point. Favorable schedule again this year, so you can take them. They also recruit well in the South, in Florida, Georgia, Alabama. They've got Ohio directly to the north, so they've got some good advantages. Wide open ACC with Florida State, Clemson. If someone does take Notre Dame, you've got those guys to compete with. But they're someone I would definitely think about. Now, we're going to add Wisconsin to the mix, and that'll close out the Big Ten. We're going to add SMU. They might be a surprise, but they have the state of Texas in their backyard to recruit from. They're now playing in the ACC. They've got money galore with NIL, so they could be another factor. To take a team that's not necessarily one of the thought of traditional programs in that frame, but SMU was great back in the 80s when they were paying players before NIL was allowed. I mean, they got their hands slapped over and over before they put them on the death penalty. But they've returned to some kind of a glory for sure. Another team that could be picked, and thought about. Let's see. We're going to go Nebraska first. They're next in line. So they could have been picked, but, that conference, Big Ten's already been closed. South Carolina, all the SEC teams have been closed, but if someone wanted them, I couldn't fault you. UK, they're on that mix. Going to put them up here on the line. They're another team, Kentucky, that's on that, could have been picked and selected. Wouldn't fault you for that. But we got to close out this next line. We've got Colorado, Coach Prime. They've got some players. They're in the Big 12, going to compete. You've got a great quarterback in Shadur. You got a great safety in Shiloh who can smack you, is not as fast as his dad. And you got Travis Hunter, one of the cover athletes, and a ton of jersey options. So, it's pretty sweet playing in Boulder. Nice backdrop for sure. I can't fault you if you want to go there. And then the last team to close out this would be TCU. They went to the championship game a couple years ago. They're still in the wide open Big 12. Can't fault you for taking anyone. Texas, huge recruiting base. So they're a team that I would definitely consider. Great jersey options as well. But that right there is my top 32 for the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and SEC. Now, some other teams that I would think about, though, Boise State, you could put them in the Big 12. They could compete there for sure. Air Force, if you wanted to run a different offense, they could run that bone and option offense. Don't know about recruiting, though, because it's a service academy. But they've always done, those service academies have done well in dynasties in the past. Two other teams here that I would put. Team that's, been playing well, top 25 recently, Liberty University. Would probably take them and put them in the ACC if you had an opening. And then the last one, if you're a Florida fan for sure, the Gators, great recruiting base, state of Florida, can't fault you. Some other teams just to think about that's on the border, North Carolina for the ACC, Pitt for the ACC. You're looking at adding maybe Houston if you want to put them in the, with the Big 12 for sure. You can sit there and roll with Houston. I would definitely wouldn't have a fault there. Cincinnati in the Big 12. Central Florida in the bounce house. It's a great state of Florida for recruiting. Duke has played good recently, so that might be an ACC option if you want to go that route. Georgia Tech, traditional school. They won a national championship, 30 years ago, 33, 34 years ago. They're up for consideration. Great recruiting base in Georgia and then also Florida. And then the last team is really it's an outlier, but I couldn't fault someone if they wanted to try to step up, maybe go the ACC route if you wanted Coastal Carolina. But that's where I'm at. Those are the top 48 teams that I would consider. The top 32 are in the top 4 tiers, and then some also other teams to consider and think about and maybe roll with. Some other teams that might just be on the edge of that. Auburn, traditional team. But I mean, like I said, once you get to 8, we're closing out. But that's it right there. If you like this video, if you want to hear some more college football 25 news in the coming weeks, make sure you hit like and subscribe. I'm going to have some breakdowns about Dynasty, Team Builder, Road to Glory as those become available. I know that Matt Brown should be free in the next week to release some information, and some of those other guys that were in Orlando on Wednesday. So make sure you hit like and subscribe. Fairdale Kings out.